If you've just joined us, our guest on this episode of Question Time is the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, Comrade Wabah Ayuba. Stay with us. The IMF Managing Director has raised three major issues affecting Nigeria's economy, and that's inequality, unemployment, and poverty. How do you see these three issues, and what's your perspective?
Well, I think from the statistic, it's obvious that poverty is actually an issue that a lot of Nigerians live today below $1 per day, and the fact also that a lot of families cannot even afford 3 square meals. So that's the reality. The second issue we mentioned is inequality. The rich are becoming much more richer, yet the poor are becoming much more poorer. In fact, the issue of middle class is no longer available in Nigeria. So that's also a reality, and that's why you have part of the symptoms of all of this is the social instability in the system and the issue of insecurity. So those issues also arise because they are not jobs. They are not jobs to actually accommodate our teeming youth, and these are issues of development that Nigeria as a country need to tackle headlong. And therefore, these are issues that even us as Nigerians, we are already aware that those are the challenges for the moment. And I think that's why all successive governments have tried to look on how to address the twin issue of poverty and job creation, especially employment for our teeming youth.
In spite of the IMF's prescription on fuel subsidy removal, there are still strong indications of payment of fuel subsidy in this year's budget as presented to the National Assembly. What's your view on this?
Well, my view, we have also tried to share in the fact that we need to clean up the process of what we call subsidy payment. I listened very attentively to the present Minister of State when he was being screened by the Senate. And the question that was posed to him is whether subsidy is necessary or not. And obviously it was very clear. He said subsidy will be necessary, but that a lot of cleanup is required. He said he was able to reduce the daily consumption of PMS from about, I think, 50 million, I couldn't quote the figure, but I think he was able to reduce it from about either 40 million liters per day to about 30 or 45. And he said a lot of work still needs to be done. The fact of the matter is that, yes, part of the challenge is the inherent corruption in our system. But we can't continue to lament the issue of corruption, even when we have a new system in place. And that is why NLC have given its support to the fight against corruption, because this issue of corruption has pervaded every sector of the economy and have actually led to failure of most of these key institutions. And therefore, we shouldn't continue to lament the fact that it is because of corruption that we want to remove subsidy, or it is because of corruption that subsidy is being paid higher. Because look at the figure. If the price have continued to fall at international market, even the subsidy amount that is supposed to be paid is supposed to be lower.
You seem to be in sympathy with the Minister of State making reference to the cleanup process before the removal of the fuel subsidy.
I only responded to some of the lamentation and some of the argument why subsidy should be removed. Most of the argument tend to say that because of the fact that there is corruption, that citizens should then bear the burden of paying higher or the inefficiency in the system. And that's our argument. The argument is that citizens should not be made to bear the challenge of the rot in the system. Instead, let us face the issues squarely. Whoever is found corrupt and whatever funds have been corruptly taken should be recovered and the process clean up. The issue of subsidy is also one argument that has been on the table, whether there is even subsidy or not in the present decline in the price of crude oil, because the price have continued to decline.
If Nigerians are paying 86 naira per litre, should the federal government still continue to pay subsidy to the oil marketers?
Simple. That is why we need to look at the template. The template is, what is even the cost of a liter of petrol imported and arriving here, including the exchange rate? 2, If there is actually the issue of even subsidy removal on product like diesel, why is it also still monopolized? It is expected that the best example should have been seen with diesel and kerosene, which have been fully deregulated. I'm aware in the past few years, only few people are still allowed to import kerosene and diesel. So there is still the issue of monopoly, even in the process of the regulation of those two products.
Let's get this clear. What's your view on the new price mechanism introduced by the PPPRA?
By the PPRA regulation law, NLC is one of the strategic stakeholders. In fact, we are a board member. And when you are doing such consultation, it is expected that it is the board that will actually consider the template of even fixing the price. So it must be done transparently, not monopolized, so that people can follow up in the argument of what the issues are. But what has happened is just mere price pronouncement without also doing the needful. What we are saying is that let us do the needful. In good governance, make those facts available. Engage strategic stakeholders. I'm surprised that those that have been engaged are only the marketers. The marketers are not the strategic stakeholders in the issue of this issue argument, because it affects every life in Nigeria. If there is a price increase, it affects me as a citizen, because most businesses power their businesses. Most people power their businesses from small, medium, and large-scale industries. And therefore, if there is a price adjustment, especially if it's to pay more, it will then affect these businesses. So what I'm saying in essence is that we need to make the process transparent. Let us look at the template and then agree whether even there is a subsidy or not. You need to engage people.
Now let's quickly look at the 2016 budget as presented to the National Assembly. This is called the Budget of Change, and we can see that there are strong indications that the budget will be largely financed by the non-oil sector, and with a capital expenditure that's about 30%, which is 100% increase, and that totals 1.8 trillion naira. How do you see the feasibility of this budget?
I think the projections made in the budget, especially about areas of focus, to me, if they are achievable, it will actually address some of the key challenges, especially in the social sector and issues of putting in place some infrastructure. But I think the problem with the budget is also that I think substantially the budget will be funded through also a process of borrowing. And I'm not sure those avenues of borrowing have actually clearly departed from what we used to do in the past, especially where for the past 8 years or so, substantial part of the budget have actually relied solely on internal and external borrowing. I think this is some of the reservation we have in it. But I think outside that, it's then important that key areas of the economy that require attention have actually been captured in the budget, especially the issue of unemployment, which I think a provision has been made. Two is the issue of capital projects, which to me I think is important for the administration to try to respond to. But I think largely also the issue of diversifying the economy, especially the attention given to agriculture, and then solid mineral extraction.
You can also be a part of this conversation by sending us your comments on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Coming up on Question Time, what is Comrade Ayuba's position on the reported leadership crisis in the Nigerian Labour Congress? Let's hear from Comrade Wabah Ayuba after the break.